first 4 weeks, Nolan had no sacks, no tackles for loss, no quarterback hits. Bye week comes, and obviously since then, he's been a different guy. What have you seen differently from him? What clicked for him? Any sense of where it came from?
You know, like I've said with him, he's done a great job of working, and he's constantly improved. And the more you play, the more you practice, and he's getting more snaps now too because since BG went down. So gets more practice plays, gets more game plays. You get better. That's the only way you get better is to practice and play. And he was improving in those first 4 weeks too. But like you've made note, it's, you know, come to fruition here since.
When you have that rotation with 3 men, is that on the edge? Is that typical that you shorten the rotation, or is that just sort of a feeling out process?
Yeah, it's just where you're at. I mean, 3's fine. You know, we basically have 2 out there every play, and there's anywhere from 60 to 70 plays in a game, and so that's anywhere from 120 to 140, and 3 guys can handle that.
Why'd you go with Rodgers over Ringo on that side when typically you've been Ringo?
No, Isaiah's been the first in,
Okay.
no matter what side.
Okay.
Second at the end of the game when he fakes the stunt. Is that something that is called or discussed on the sideline, or is that all him just feeling?
A little bit of everything, and during the week we had run the stunt that he was faking in them the first game with some success. So I think it worked because of that, what happened in the first game we played them.
There's a chance Isaiah Rodgers has a bigger role this week. You obviously get to watch him practice all season. How do you feel like he's improved throughout the year behind the scenes without getting consistent snaps every week?
Well, he was a guy that all during OTAs and training camp was doing very well. And then he broke his hand and was out for a few weeks and was slow to recover from that, meaning when he came back, he wasn't playing at the same level he was prior. But now he's definitely back to where he was, and I have total confidence in him if he plays.
With Jalen, how have you seen him grow in maybe the mental side of the game or some of those finer details, like with that fake stunt and stuff like that?
He's growing. You know, you play as much as he plays and he gets practice. He's growing. You know, he's a second-year player, getting a lot of playing time. He should improve.
I know you've only had 1 year with him, but you know, with you and Clint, how have y'all approached, you know, coaching Jalen and creating opportunities for him inside? I know you don't put ceilings on players, but like, how often do you kind of coach and create schemes around him, knowing that he could, you know, transcend some situations?
Not as often as you think, you know, because once you do something, it affects everything else. But it's something that we look to build on.
How much freedom does he have when it comes to like some of those moves and like faking the stunt, that sort of thing?
Well, when you get an obvious pass, it goes up a little bit. You know, in the either-or situations, not so much.
When you have a young quarterback,
when you have a player on that level who can potentially be what he could potentially be, do you have to kind of hold him down a little bit from a standpoint of not praising him too much so he doesn't get too big ahead too soon?
A little bit, but I don't worry about that because there's plenty to correct too.
Jaden Daniels is obviously a young quarterback, and you saw him just last month, but he's played in his first postseason games. I mean, in that small amount of time, has he changed?
He's a young quarterback by birth certificate, not by the tape. You know, the guy's playing extremely well. You could tell how much they think he's playing, you know, so good by the volume of their offense and the things they trust him to do. And he's come through for them in a big way. And he's tough to handle.
You mentioned the volume. Is aside from the amount of plays that Cliff has and goes to, are there a lot of teams around the league that run a lot of what he does?
I'm sure there are, you know. He has the added dimension of the gun run game where he can have design runs for the quarterback or he can pull it and keep it. That adds another level to an offense, and he excels at that. And I assume he was doing it in college, and it just comes natural to him.
Is this the best you've ever seen a rookie play at that position?
You know, probably, yeah.
What's the teaching point from the fourth quarter of the last game?
We just got to finish. You know, I think you do have to give them some credit. He made some great throws. They made some great catches. One like we left somebody wide open. They're good. I think you always have to give the other team some credit when you're executing, and you know, where you are supposed to be, and they're just out executing you and making plays. But our guys kept going. You know, we had belief that we could come up with a stop, and we did.
Is he the type of guy, the type of guy that you could try, you have to more mush rush him in terms of the way that he gun runs them, or you feel like you can still go ahead and pressure him more outright?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a fine line there. If you're mush rushing, then he stands forever too. So we just have to do a good job of rushing, you know, when we're rushing 4 or 5 and make sure we don't give them lanes.
To get the production that you've gotten from young guys like Jalix Hunt, Morrow, Jomo, I mean, how valuable has that been for you, and how much have they improved, like, you know, throughout the course of the year?
Yeah, it's been very valuable, and they have improved. Mo's really done a nice job with the snaps that he's gotten over the last few months, and we have total confidence in him when we're in there. Nothing changes, and he's got some athleticism, and he seems to show up, and Jalix is getting better too.
When there's a team as aggressive and successful on fourth downs as they've been, does it affect your approach on third downs at all?
Sometimes, you know, depending upon what the third down is, you know, from a yardage standpoint.
You stuck with Oren in that game. Was that the plan going in?
You know, we had planned to possibly play Trot some, but, you know, Oren was doing okay. Things were going okay, so we stuck with it.
When you have a back like Eckler who can impact the passing game more than most, is that shift your philosophy a little bit at linebacker or not?
In what way?
Just from the coverage standpoint, the athletic, we talked about Oren and Trot, just whether someone has better coverage ability or not. Is that more a part of it when you have a back like Eckler?
Yeah, it could be, but, you know, basically Trot and Oren are very similar, so it doesn't in this case.
Why do you think they're so efficient on fourth down?
Quarterback and the talent around him.
In Slay's case, you don't see corners at that age very often. What is it that allows him to be effective at age 34?
Mm-hmm. He's like some good Italian Dago red wine. It gets better with age. And he's still in good shape, hadn't lost much of his movement, still really likes to play, and I think that's a big part of it.
Talk about the talent around Daniels. Have you anybody standing out in terms of their growth over the season, where you can tell that they're
Well, Ertz and McLaurin are, you know, two of the best at their positions. Brown has really come on for them of late. Their backs are good now that they got Eckler back. Robinson's a good back. You know, they're really well balanced in their skill positions, what they can and can't do.
You've also gotten better with age?
Me? I'll leave that up to you guys.
In the case of Zach Vaughn and Cooper DeJean, when you're able to bring them down to the front out of nickel, how does that allow you, I guess the versatility, how does that help you when you don't have to change personnel, but you have different fronts?
It helps, you know, for sure. When you don't have to sub to do different stuff, it helps.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Morning, everyone.
Michael?
How do you kind of balance Jake missing another extra, a couple extra points, but also kind of getting you guys through with a couple kicks in the snow?
Yeah, obviously that first extra point, like, we can't have, obviously there was better conditions, but I thought Jake battled through, and he actually, I thought from both a kickoff standpoint and those 3 tough field goals, you guys look at the yardage on the last 2, what was it, in the 20s and the 30s, but we saw the conditions there. He did an unbelievable job, and not just him, but also the operation, starting with Rick. You saw the big guys clearing the spot for him. So going, with Jake, it's always his mentality is never dwelling on him, and he's going to go out there and try to perform at the best of his ability. So again, going 3 for 3 in those conditions on the field goal, getting 9 points for us was outstanding. And just little things we could clean up just so we don't, have those extra points. But I thought Jake did a really good job after bouncing back after the first one, both with those kickoffs and with the 3 field goals.
What are you seeing on those extra points?
Yeah, the first one he was way too fast with it, and for myself to get these guys put in more game-like situations, those 2 that he missed were off sudden change. Big play, so you don't get that same type of methodic drive where you're going through your same process. It's more just understanding for them, like, you do see number 26 back there. He could take it 80 yards in a blink of an eye, so we just got to make sure we stay true to our process and not speed up with the adrenaline of the game that'll get you to go quick. So nothing, overbearing that I saw from him. It just got too quick on it, and he pulled the left.
The 44-yard kick that he did make, into the wind and the snow, I mean, how difficult was that one, obviously, with everything that was going on?
Yeah, I mean, everyone saw the conditions right there. 44-yard in those conditions is extremely tough. But again, it comes back to his mindset. Whenever our numbers are called, try to get the best of our abilities to put points on the board, and he did. Hit a good ball, true. Started to leak a little to the right, but it was a true ball. And any way we could get our points on the board, and you saw those three field goals really came down and helped us out in the end of it.
What did you make of the holds from Braden?
Yeah, Braden, his hands, were fantastic. I know one of them was really good where he spun it as well. I think it was the last field goal that he had the really good holds. But as much as it's made that Braden had great holds, the snaps weren't awful either by Rick. They were pretty good. A lot of the times he was just putting it down over the spot. It gets a little exaggerated when you kind of extend out a little bit, but the laces were good outside of one from Rick. And in those conditions, it's not just the kicker with his plant leg and footing, it's also the snapper. I mean, that ball's laying on the ground, hands are cold, it's getting wet. I thought Rick did a really good job to try to mitigate any issues, but Braden, his hands are fantastic, and puts in all the work they do. Behind the scenes, people don't really see how much they actually snap, hold, and get the operation to where it needs to be.
What's it like to have a guy like Gainwell who can come in with Isaiah play more corner and come in and produce like he did?
Yeah, I mean, Kenny's just a gamer. I know we've talked about Kenny a lot, whether it's his kickoff coverage or his return ability. And, you just see, even on offense, you see he makes people miss. He gets all those yards that you don't see. And, he sits in that corner over there where John is, and he's always in tune. He's always trying to get better. He's asking, hey, you need me at any point, let me know. I'm ready to go. And you saw it, pushing the pile from, the 36-yard line to the 44-yard line, give our offense, shorter fields, especially in those conditions. Like, any way we can make a short field for our offense or a long field for our defense, we're going to try and go out there and flip the field we possibly can. But Kenny, again, I could go on for days talking about Kenny Gainwell. He's awesome.
Given the conditions, how difficult was the kickoff after the safety?
I mean, that's one of the plays that kind of gets, lost in translation, because I don't think people really understand. The ruling is it's a 25-yard penalty if you don't get it to that landing zone. So Jake hit a knuckleball, got it far enough. It was good job by the returner catching it, but good job by our coverage. Get him down at the 35, because if it's a 25-yard penalty from the line of scrimmage, we put the defense at the plus 45. That's a lot of yardage that we could have gave up. But I thought Jake did an unbelievable job into the conditions, into the wind, snow. Then our coverage guys going down there. Trot made a heck of a play, shedding the blocker to make it, and holding them down to the 35. That was a 20-yard field position swing from the kickoff unit. So we were very happy about that, and something that most people don't think it's a huge play. In our eyes, that was a heck of a play to save that 20-yard field position.
Nervous about that kick at all? That it could get deep enough?
Nervous? I don't think I'm nervous of it. I think it's more of just within those white lines, you have so much trust in those guys that they're going to get it done. we're just out there to try and make a play. I don't think there was nervousness. There may be nervousness from around other people, but I still have so much trust in Jake and the kickoff unit, especially as of late, covering the ball very well to get these guys down. We got a big test again against Washington this week.
Over time against Washington, last time, maybe some of the kickoffs were a little bit of an issue. You just mentioned the improvement there. Do you think that came from that game?
I think we all, looked in the mirror ourselves, from myself as a coach, to allow these players to understand that wasn't good enough in that moment in time. And these guys are so prideful, and they just want to make, they want to make their presence felt on special teams to help out the offense and defense. And, ever since that game, I think we've done a really good job of, improving our fundamentals, tackling and making some plays. I think Tristan McCullum has done an unbelievable job manning the inside right there at the 5. He made that first tackle against LA, and he's done a really good job tackling, Turpin against Dallas. So it's just us again, singing to our level of detail and fundamentals to make sure our kickoff unit is helping out, and it has the first 2 games, and we can't let that falter because Washington is a really good kickoff return unit.
When did you find out that you wouldn't have Orrin as much as usual last week?
Yeah, I go through every day trying to mix and match guys just in case. You never know what's going to happen, so I got to prep everyone from the 1 to the 2 deep. So not knowing or knowing, it really doesn't matter to me in terms of my job is to get these guys prepared, and I think they all come in with that sense that their number can be called at any point, and they come in ready to work. Starting tomorrow, so. They make my job a lot easier because they're so in tune and locked into it. But it's my job to at least give everybody reps that they can feel confident going in if their number is called.
What else is top of mind for you heading into this matchup?
I mean, everything's on top of mind, from a special teams coordinator standpoint. We got to make sure, one, we flip the field on kickoff and punt and coverage. And from the punt standpoint, we also got to protect. Izzo and Washington, they do a very good job. They got a couple exotic rushes. Even dating back to the Seattle days when Izzo was the coordinator there, we got to make sure we get our counts and we're protecting that from the punt return and kickoff return phase. Obviously, it's ball security. Whether it's a little bit colder, ball's a little bit slicker. So we've done a fairly good job in that regard. Then playing penalty free, especially in the playoffs. Those penalties are kind of magnified and they're a lot bigger. So for us to play a clean game. From not just the core 4, but also from field goal block standpoint.
A lot of kicking is also mental as well too. And if Jake struggles or what have you, how do you guys work to try to keep him from being frustrated, not just trying to dwell on those missed kicks?
Yeah, I don't think Jake really dwells on it. I think that's the great thing, and very fortunate to have. He's kind of got almost like a golfer's mindset. Like, you will hit a bad shot here though as a golfer, but how do you bounce back from it? And I think it was really showed. When he missed that first extra point, he bounced back with some good kickoffs and those three field goals to help us put some points on the board. So his mental is so strong. I'm never too worried about him. He'll flush it after the first one.
How about for you though, as a coach, as a leader, do you treat the specialist the same way you would a unit that's underperforming, or where it's not good enough? Like it's a make or miss game, right? So do you have to convey to him that's not good enough, or does he just know intrinsically?
Yeah, I think everybody understands the nature of this business. It's always production based, so it's not where I have to really harp on it. It's a pretty much black and white when you do miss or make a kick. So I don't think I need to beat a dead horse with Jake, but we all understand that we're graded on our ability to make points as a kicking unit. We're graded on our ability to cover kicks as a punt and kickout coverage unit. So I think everybody understands that, and they've done some good things to get us to this point. It's not like we kind of just fell into it. So I'm never too hard on the guys. What's the point of me beating a dead horse if they already know it? For me personally, it's to positive reinforce these guys to get back up and say, hey, next play, we'll be all right. You're going to come back and you're going to make a big kick for us, in which he did. He even said the second field goal was one of the hardest ones because he didn't see the ball. He didn't know if he made it, missed it. He didn't know. But he came back in mentally, went through his same progression, and put 9 points on the board with 3 for 3 from the field goal.
The coordination, for the guys who came out and cleared the snow for Jake, on field goals and stuff. How does that come about during the course of the week? Is that something you tell them, like, hey, if there's snow on the ground, I want you guys coming out to clear it? How does that work?
Yeah, it goes just watching other games. I know there was a big snow game against Buffalo and San Francisco, going back and seeing how the weather accumulated. Tyler looks at it from a day-to-day standpoint, like what was the temperature at that game. Obviously, the Raider-Patriot Tuck Rule game we look back and see, you know, what happened, how did they clear it, and the rules that John Ferrari tells us, hey, just a reminder, you can't use a towel, any foreign object to move the field. And in our field goal unit meeting, I let them know, like, hey, if Jake asks for a spot, you big guys out there, help him out, clear it, then get ready to protect. So there's a lot of behind the scenes things that go into those little things that maybe, you know, you really don't think of from an outside perspective, but the guys are so locked in. You saw it, you know, those 2 field goals, it was almost like a pit crew. They cleaned it up, they got set, and they were able to protect against a pretty good rush team, especially 97 with the Rams.
That approach to coaching, the positive reinforcement you discussed, is that from the way you were coached? Is that how you wanted to be coached? How would you describe the philosophy behind that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I wasn't expecting that question. For myself, I'm more of a glass half full personality. When I do need to get on somebody, I think there's a little bit more effect to it when you're not yelling all the time. But I think the positive reinforcement is just, it gives them confidence that they do have somebody that they believe, that somebody's believing in them to do the right thing and, you know, help out the team anyway. There's obviously times where you have to be kind of a stern human being, but for myself, it's just that positive reinforcement is only going to help them more than anything else to know that someone's confident in them, that they can get the job done, and hopefully they perform at that level. And for me personally, I think it has happened, you know, the 3 years prior with Jake, you know, he set records here. And I'm not too worried about him. He's still a hell of a kicker, great kicker, and I'd want him on my team in these situations at any point.
Thank you.
guys. How's it going?
Kellen, when you don't know exactly how mobile Jalen's going to be going into a game, how much does that change the game planning aspect?
Same game plan formula. Obviously, like any players on our team, if you have to make adjustments as weeks progress or games progress, you do, but very similar plan.
Kellen, we've talked a lot about the passing game, and you keep winning games, but 65 net yards, I assume, is not
ideal.
goal. So how do you look at it when you come out of a game like that?
Yeah, I think you got to evaluate it in a big picture perspective, and obviously then we look through every little detail of it. And I think obviously, too many sacks on our end. I focus on how can I help that process and put ourselves in better situations. Some of the play calling in some of those situations, obviously, I'm gonna dig really deep into. And so I thought we protected the football. We made some plays in some situational football when we needed to, and gave ourselves a chance to win.
What was last week like for you? It's not every week where you're prepping for a divisional playoff game and have 3 head coaching interviews. What was that like?
It's really the same process we normally take. Nothing changes on our preparation for a game. I missed a 4th grade basketball game on Friday night. That's about it. And so, other than that, it's the same process.
After Jalen's injury, there were 2 sacks where he took deep drops, and then the safety and the second down sack on the last drive. Why were those the play calls there when he wasn't moving as well, clearly?
Yeah, those are 2 situational calls. Certainly, I dig really deep into whether if you're in that situation again, do you probably give yourself a better opportunity? Certainly, I lean that way. Just going back through it, everything being backed up and playing that situation out, and then in the 4-minute offense, we had some success on some movements, and obviously they played that one really, really well.
Last time we played the Commanders, when Jalen went out, they obviously in that second half sold out on stopping Saquon. Why were they successful in your mind? And given his situation with his knee, how much are you worried that maybe they try to deploy that same thing?
They did a really good job of really gap sound. I thought they did a really good job fitting the gaps. They did a really good job with their pressure plan, having enough different presentations. I thought they really changed up their variety and did a really excellent job. Obviously we felt like we were close on some. They were not able to hit, and they finished it off.
If I could follow up on the safety, when you're evaluating that, obviously there's a lot at play there. The protection, the defense that they played, the call, and Jalen's decision making. If you could get as granular as you can, how do you assign, I'm not saying blame, but how do you evaluate that and say, okay, this is what should have happened ideally?
Yeah, that one's on me. That one's simply on me. Chasing a particular look that is more traditional in the open field, and we were backed up, and that's one that, hey, I'll call something different in that situation based off of just the way it played out.
So 100% on you.
Yeah.
You don't say, hey, you know what, he should have gone to Dallas there to get rid of the ball.
There's things within it, but obviously, my number one focus is to put the guys in the best position to be successful, and didn't feel like I did.
On Jalen's 44-yard touchdown early in the game, obviously it was a zone read with Saquon. I mean, does that kind of show just, if Jalen is a threat running, just how much defenses have to account for that? And, what makes them tougher, Jalen and Saquon tough together?
Certainly the combination of Saquon and Jalen backfield is really, really powerful. They do an excellent job of having the threat of both of them. I think, Jalen does an excellent job of making decisions within those. Obviously, he has to make decisions a lot of times in those runs, whether they hand it or keep it. He does an excellent job, and, I thought that was a really, really cool play. Great decision by him. The offensive line, Landon kind of pinned it. Jordan obviously led the way, and the receivers did a great job with their perimeter blocking.
Obviously, there are pass plays that you call where you're hoping for an explosive to come out of it. Are there run plays with Saquon where you're thinking this could get us an explosive?
Certainly, there's variables that may increase the odds. Sometimes there's some anticipated probably a little bit more dirty runs, and there's some runs that you're trying to chase something big. Obviously, most runs, if not almost all of them, you're certainly trying to block the first and second level, and then if it gets to the third level, usually that's where the big plays happen.
Kellen, how big has it been getting Dallas back, especially these last 2 games?
Dallas has done an incredible job in the run game. Certainly want to highlight how important he has been in the run game. Just he's done a great job in there. And then obviously he's made some plays in the passing game. And so, it seems like, we need a play, and he happens to be there.
A lot of times when you see top-tier cornerbacks, people tend to shy away. In that last matchup, you guys really attacked Marshawn Lattimore, especially deep. What did you make of that, and what was the decision process behind it?
He's obviously one of the best corners in this league. He does a really, really good job. Obviously, it'll be a challenge for us. Obviously, one game, some things happen. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen the same way, but obviously he's a guy that, playing against New Orleans over the years has obviously had huge impacts on games, and he does a really good job. So we're well aware of that.
Washington's defensive physicality, do you see it on film? Is it more than other teams?
They're really well coached. Obviously know Dan and Joe really well. They do an excellent job with that group. They play fast, they play physical, they play confident. That's the secret sauce. They do an excellent job, and you can tell they're all aligned and they're all in sync on defense. They're not going to give you any freebies. They're not going to give you easy things. They're going to make you earn it.
I think around them a lot before this year. Anything about Devontae and AJ's willingness and ability to block surprising?
It's really a testament to the team players they are. They're blocking for each other, for the QB run game, for the running back run game. They just do an excellent job. It's big time.
You've been around a lot of good offensive lines in Dallas and now here. What does this group mean to you as a coordinator, just as the group as a whole?
Yeah, this group's incredible. Awesome people, first and foremost. They work really, really hard. They're aligned. They work well together, and obviously, I think they certainly bring the physical tone and mentality to our entire football team. They set the foundation. We lean on those guys certainly a lot.
Said it was going to be a similar process to making adjustments based on like Hurts' mobility and how he's feeling throughout the week, as it would be like any other injured player. What information are you taking into account? How much of that is like consulting with the player directly, the medical staff, when you're making those kinds of adjustments on it?
Yeah, that stuff's always going to lean on the medical and the player. Obviously, those guys go through their process, and it's just communicated from them to the coaching staff. And so, plenty of conversations as the week progresses. It's mid to late January. There's a lot of guys that are banged up. This doesn't have just to do with Jalen. There's plenty of guys that are going through stuff, and that's how these weeks are.
How do you feel like
you guys have managed the blitz pretty well all season? Why were the Rams more successful than past weeks?
Really, really good rush. They're doing an excellent job. I thought some of their games and their movements, just as you get later into a progression where the DNs kind of loop back around and made some plays. Obviously, they're doing an excellent job with it. It was a challenge for us, and so credit to them.
you look at the passing yards, and it obviously doesn't look good, but how would you describe Jalen's game on Sunday?
I thought Jalen just played a really clean game as far as, he protected the football. He ran it really, really well. We made some really good situational throws. Obviously, some stats, can be perceived as not wow perspective. I thought he did a good job of giving us a chance to win that game and putting us in a really, really good position.
The first play of the game, you had success under center, a play action bootleg there, and then I think that was the last under center pass of the game. Was there a reason you went away from it thereafter?
Yeah, I think we got a variety of things within the game plan, and sometimes tying the run game and the pass game together, and certainly we have different opportunities for those.
Good.
All right, thanks guys.